Hi, a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to our live session. So, today's live will focus on the following topic: maxillary first molar, permanent maxillary first molar, the occlusal aspect. So, we'll look into the details of occlusal anatomy. We'll have a brief discussion first using some images from Wheelers, and then we'll go with textbook review. After which we'll have MCQs discussion where I'll be posting multiple choice questions in the community page of our YouTube channel. So after every session, we have been posting a minimum of 5 questions related to the topic which we discuss in live. And I really appreciate your active participation. And I'm sure right now around 100 students are participating, and as time progresses, the maximum we can reach is thousands. So we'll try to post the questions consistently. We'll try to do these live sessions consistently. And I'm intentionally saying these things live so that I can stand up to my word. So we'll have regular weekly live discussions on general as well as academic topics. And following which we'll have this MCQs discussion as well, okay? Using the community page. Previously, we used to post questions in our groups like WhatsApp or Telegram. But what I've learned and realized is even the community page of YouTube is offering us more tools where we can post not just text-based questions, but also image-based questions. So I hope I'm audible. And if you have any issues with audio, do let me know. So first and foremost, before I go ahead with today's topic discussion, I started going to government schools as well as part of my freedom tour, and I started taking these perspective enhancement programs which I have been doing worldwide in different countries in different universities. And the response from the students in government schools is something which I frankly didn't expect. It is amazing, memorable, and I'll tell you why I didn't expect this. So usually when we discuss certain topics, it can be career guidance, success strategies, building relationships, so on and so forth. The reception from student community is there always, right from the beginning of my journey. But when it comes to government schools, especially in my locality, we have this perception that government school children are not sharp or they're dumb or they cannot understand English, but the dynamics have changed so much. That's the reason why I said I didn't expect that kind of response. When so far I've been to 3 government schools and I've taken some 3 sessions. In every class there is a digital board which I'm really planning to buy so that I can utilize for YouTube live as well. And along with the digital board in every classroom, they're providing so many amenities to children. They're providing free books, no school fee, uniforms, bags, etc., along with midday meals, snacks, breakfast, whatnot. So I was really happy to see all these developments, because when I was interacting with the principals of some schools, they're saying like 30-40 years ago, government used to consider spending money on education as waste. But now the dynamics have completely changed. Government is spending a lot. I'm not talking about the outcomes. I'm not saying that outcomes are great. Now, one of the things which we talk about in these perspective enhancement programs is PISA survey, where way back in 2013, I guess, 2009, in 2009, India stood last among 73 countries on a global level, last but one, 72. So the outcomes are not really great. But still, there is effort from the government side, to make sure that the children are getting quality education or education on par with those who are going to private schools. So that's definitely a welcome move. And the principal was telling me like maybe 5 years, 10 years down the lane, the outcomes also will most probably improve, provided we have dedicated teachers who are there to, impart knowledge unconditionally. Of course, they're getting their salaries, but still, if there is that intent, right intent, then the outcomes will improve, and in the process, the next generation will have more skills, more opportunities, and even sky is not the limit. This is something which I wanted to share with you. And now coming to our topic proper. So we will be discussing about the following. Okay, so we'll be discussing about the occlusal anatomy of maxillary, permanent maxillary first molar. So initially we'll just have a brief overview. I'll show you the image simultaneously and then we can discuss what you can see in this particular image. Let me just reduce the brightness. I think it will be, yeah, it's much more better now. Dr. Roy says thank you. You're welcome, Dr. Roy. So as you can clearly see in this illustration, this is occlusal aspect of permanent maxillary first molar. 16 or 26, you guys do let me know. I'll let you know the answer at the end. Is it left side tooth or right side tooth? So anyways, as you can see, I'll just bring it closer to the camera. Yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah, I think I need to tilt this. Okay, so as you can see, we have these almost 4 major cusps, right? If you carefully observe the occlusal anatomy, we have certain key points which I wanted to highlight, because every one of us know that there are major cusps. Mesiopalatal is the largest cusp, and then we know the order of the size of the cusps. We know cusp of Carabelli, if at all, if it is present, it's present along the mesiopalatal cusp. So we know some information, but in this session we'll try to highlight certain important points in the process. So let me just zoom in and come closer. I'm trying to reduce the brightness as much as possible. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, this seems to be the largest cusp among all these 4 major cusps, right? So this largest cusp is nothing but, yeah, this one is your mesiopalatal cusp, or it's also called as mesiolingual cusp, as you already know. Okay, yeah. And as you can see, there are other 3 cusps, but among all these 4 cusps, along with this cusp of Carabelli, so let's suppose there are 5 cusps on this model, right? So among these 5 cusps, only 3 cusps are considered to be primary cusps, and 2 cusps are considered to be secondary cusps. So can you make a guess, like, which are primary and which are secondary? So as you can already see, this largest cusp, the mesiolingual cusp, is a primary cusp. And according to Wheelers, based on development, the buccal cusps along with the mesiolingual cusp, these 3 together are considered to be primary cusps. You can make a note of this point. This is very, very important. If at all there is a question like which of the following is a primary cusp or considered as a primary cusp in case of permanent maxillary first molar, you must be able to answer. So developmentally speaking, these 3 cusps, that is mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal, distobuccal, these 3 are considered to be primary cusps. Whereas, as you can see, distolingual cusp, and along with distolingual cusp, cusp of Carabelli. So these 2 cusps are considered to be secondary cusps. And if you observe maxillary molars, the size of distolingual cusp progressively gets smaller as you move on from the first molar to the third molar in case of permanent teeth, right? So this is one thing which I wanted to highlight. And also, if you can clearly see what is the shape of the outline, as you can see here, what do you call this outline shape? If you connect all the cusp ridges, all the 4 cusp ridges, it's bringing us this following outline. So the dotted line here represents an outline, right? So what is the shape of this outline? Sometimes you can even have a question like the shape of the outline on occlusal aspect of permanent maxillary first molar is triangular, rhomboidal, parallelogram. So what do you call this? So as you can see, there are 4 sides, but they're not equal, so it's not a square. And also you can see some are at acute angles, some are at obtuse angles if you draw straight lines. So it is a parallelogram, but unequal length, the lines are of unequal length, right? So this shape is called as rhomboidal, diamond shape, rhomboid, okay, diamond shaped or rhomboidal. So we can also make a note of this point, okay. Now coming to our original image again, we'll try to highlight, we'll try to focus on this. So as you can see, as I already said, these 3, mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal, distobuccal, are considered to be primary cusps, and distolingual as well as cusp of Carabelli are considered to be secondary cusps. And if you carefully observe, these three major cusps, that is mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal and distrobuccal, they form primary cusp triangle. You can make a note of this point. So on the occlusal surface of maxillary first molar, the primary cusp triangle is constituted by which of the following cusps, and you must be able to answer. So the primary cusp triangle is constituted by these three major cusps, or the three primary cusps, namely mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal and distrobuccal. You might get confused with these names, but one of the best ways to remember is to look into the image and then simultaneously making a correlation with the theory. See, as I already mentioned previously, your conscious mind can store memory in the form of words easily, and it is short-term memory. But your subconscious mind is able to store your memory forever, and you'll have a forever recall ability based on your observation, based on your mindfulness, especially when you're dealing with image-based learning. So through words, conscious learning, short-term, but through images and through feelings, it is long-term memory, and it is going to be there in long term because it is entering into your subconscious mind. In fact, if you remember last video where I clearly mentioned some differences between conscious and subconscious mind, and especially when it comes to memory. Conscious mind, it can remember limited words or text or numbers, and it is short term only, whereas subconscious mind can remember when presented in the form of images or feelings, and it's going to be there forever. That's the reason why we say when you're preparing notes or when you're observing things, don't just go with words or text. Also make sure that you're incorporating images. Also make sure that you're incorporating feelings if possible, right? So they work, they do wonders. So as you can see here, so we have this primary cusp triangle, okay? A kind of triangle with apex towards the mesopalatal and base towards the buccal cusps. So this primary cusp triangle is formed by these three primary cusps, that is mesopalatal, mesiobuccal and distrobuccal. And also you can see there are, like they mention in textbook, like, and also based on observation, you can see two major fossa and two minor fossa. I think I can show you a graphical illustration. I found a app in which the representation of this teeth is really good. I think I got it. I hope you can see this. Let me just zoom out. Yeah, I think it has a better representation when it comes to ridges and grooves. So you can find actually two major fossa and two minor fossa. So this is, as you can see, this is a mesopalatal cusp. Let me get back to the previous image because again it's on the other side, 1/6, there will be a confusion. So this particular fossa, which you can see, okay, this fossa is the central fossa. So central fossa is roughly triangular, you need not remember the shape. But if you look into the other major fossa, this is the distal fossa. So the distal fossa is almost linear. I mean, especially when you do this class 1 cavities, you can clearly remember the outline form of the class 1 cavity, right? So it almost represents the outline form of a fossa, major fossa. So the central fossa is triangular, roughly triangular, and the distal fossa is almost linear. And along with these two major fossa, that is central fossa and distal fossa, we have two minor fossa, mesial triangular fossa, a small triangular fossa here you can see, distal to the mesial marginal ridge. Yeah. So this mesial triangular fossa and distal triangular fossa. So we have two major fossa and two minor fossa. Even that's understood. And along with that, you can also see a central groove, a buccal developmental groove, a palatal groove, which you do palatal extension in case of class 1, and also you can see a central pit, mesial pit, distal pit, and some accessory grooves, so on and so forth. And one thing which I wanted to highlight before we move on to the textbook discussion is observe the shape of the tooth carefully, the dimensions of the tooth carefully. If you observe very carefully, so as I said, this is the palatal side, this is the buccal side, this is the mesial side, and this is the distal side. So the dimension of the tooth mesiodistally is great on the lingual side compared to the buccal side, which means when you measure the mesiodistal width of the tooth, especially in the contact area region, this is very, very important. If you carefully observe, draw 2 points here, 1 point here and the other point here, draw a line. So this length will be greater than the length which you find it here. So the tooth narrows buccally as you move from the palatal side, which means in simple terms, the mesiodistal width of the tooth is greater on the lingual side or the palatal side compared to the buccal side, right? That is one thing which I want you guys to remember. And also when you look into the buccolingual dimension, just now we spoke about mesiodistal dimension. Now if you look into the buccolingual dimension, which is greater on the mesial side or the distal side, that is very much obvious. So the buccolingual length or the dimension is greater on the mesial side than on the distal side comparatively. Okay, so all of these points we're trying to highlight because as a dentist, as a person who is an expert in dental anatomy or in tooth carving, you're supposed to know all these finite details so that you can give a better replacement whenever required, or so that you can do better carving whenever required to the patient, right? So this is not nonsense, or this is not just for sake of answering MCQs. This knowledge ultimately has to translate into practicality, or else what's the point in learning? It's just waste of time, right? So these are certain things which I wanted to highlight, showing you these illustrations. I'll show you some additional illustrations. So these are natural tooth specimens, which are, this is from Wheeler's again. So you can see. And by the way, one of the major things which I wanted to highlight is coming to ridges. So we have this mesial ridge, mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge. We have these triangular ridges. But one thing which is very conspicuous in case of maxillary first molar, as evident here, look at this ridge which is passing obliquely from the mesiopalatal cusp towards the distobuccal cusp, right? So this is called as oblique ridge since it is passing through obliquely. And this oblique ridge connects the distal ridge of the mesiopalatal cusp and the triangular ridge of the distobuccal cusp, right? So it's as simple as that. So this is called as oblique ridge, and this is one of the most conspicuous features of your maxillary first molar. So even here you can see, yeah, this is your oblique ridge. And here we have various fossas, major, minor fossas as given in Wheeler's. We can just skip this part, and this is the outline, rhomboidal in shape. And again here we have various grooves, ridges. That's fine. Yeah. So here you can see the oblique ridge, which is very conspicuous, right? And also you can clearly make out mesiopalatal being the largest, and you can see here a triangle shape which is very much evident clinically, a triangle shape. So this primary cusp triangle, we call this as primary cusp triangle, and this is formed by the primary cusps, namely mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal and distobuccal, right? Now coming to distolingual and cusp of Carabelli, which you can see here, right? A small cusp of Carabelli. These two cusps are considered to be secondary cusps, period. Okay. Now, if you guys have textbooks with you, more than welcome. You can check out Wheeler simultaneously as I review the information which is given over there. I think I'm following 10th edition. Page number is 170. Okay, chapter maxillary first molar. Okay, so I will briefly go through some important points, and then we'll not go through everything. We'll skip certain points and we'll focus on the main points. Okay, so from the occlusal aspect, the maxillary first molar is somewhat rhomboidal. So simultaneously, let me show you the images as well, so that it will you know, be imprinted in your memory in a better way. I think this is fine. I can just hold it like this, right? Yeah. So from occlusal aspect, the maxillary first molar is somewhat rhomboidal in outline. An outline following the four major cusp ridges and the marginal ridges gives that kind of rhomboidal appearance. Now, continuation. You can see, like they've mentioned about the point which we tried to highlight at the end. So it is apparent that the maxillary first molar crown is wider mesially than distally and wider lingually than buccally. In simple terms, you can see the maxillary molar, the first molar. Make a note of this point. The maxillary first molar it's wider mesially than distally, right? And it is wider lingually than buccally. Usually when we talk about lingual, we just calculate from cusp of Caravelli. No, we should calculate from here, from the contact point, from the major cusp, right? So the bottom line here is maxillary first molar crowns, they're wider mesially than distally, and they're wider lingually or palatally than buccally. That's the take-home message. And the four major cusps are well developed, with the small fifth minor cusp, which is present along the mesiopalatal line angle. It's called as cusp of Caravelli. Use a palatal or mesiolingual line angle. Okay, palatal or lingual, we can use them synonymously. Oh, what is mesial? Mesial means the side which is present towards the midline. For example, this is a midline, right? Any part of the or any surface of the tooth which is present towards the midline is mesial and away is distal. I hope you're asking the same. Or if you want me to identify what's mesial here, this is the mesiopalatal cusp, right? So obviously this, the largest cusp. So obviously this will be, yeah, the mesial side. What are functional cusps? You tell me what is functional cusp. Mesiopalatal cusp occludes with the opposing tooth. Usually in case of maxillary teeth, the palatal cusps are considered to be functional cusps. Okay? Do you remember Bull's rule? Reduction of non-functional cusps, upper buccal, lower lingual, right? Yeah. Yes, Deepika. Yeah, the medial or mesial? Yes, mesial, not mesial, it's mesial. As Enid used to make fun of me whenever I said mesial. Mesial. Yeah, mesial or medial. Yes, both are the same in this context. Okay, now let's continue with our textbook review. So the fifth cusp may be indistinct. Okay, let's skip all that part. The mesiolingual cusp, make a note of it. The mesiolingual cusp is the largest cusp. If they ask you a question like answer or arrange the cusp based on the size from largest to smallest or smallest to largest, you must be able to answer. So the mesiolingual cusp is the largest cusp, as I already discussed previously. It is followed by mesiobuccal, followed by distolingual, followed by distobuccal. Last is cusp of Caravelli. So remember Z, alphabet Z or Z in this format. Okay, you're starting from mesiopalatal. That's how I used to remember. It's easy to remember the order of the size. Start from here, go like this, and then crisscross, and then like this. Okay, mesiopalatal, mesiobuccal, distolingual, distobuccal, and last will be cusp of Caravelli. Z pattern, easier for you to remember. Okay. What else? Yeah, the triangular arrangement of cusps is reflected. I mentioned about this primary cusp triangle, right? So that's the one they have mentioned here. So maxillary molar primary cusp triangle is formed by these three cusps. Make a note of it. And you have the central fossa, distal fossa, mesial triangular, distal triangular fossa, oblique ridge. Let me just read something about oblique ridge because it is very conspicuous and important. So oblique ridge, as I said, it connects mesiopalatal with distobuccal. So the oblique ridge is the ridge that crosses, and on the oblique ridge you can see this groove that is called as transverse groove. Okay, so the oblique ridge is the ridge that crosses the occlusal surface obliquely. The union of triangular ridge of distobuccal cusp and the distal ridge of mesiopalatal. I already mentioned this previously. So the oblique ridge is formed by union of the distal ridge of the mesiopalatal cusp or mesiolingual cusp and the triangular ridge of the distobuccal cusp. I mean, once you observe the image clearly, you'll have no confusion. In fact, you'll have the image in mind and you can imagine and then answer accordingly. Visualization. And mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge, central fossas, and rest of the things, I think, yeah, there are still some points. I think we have pretty much covered all the points. Okay. Yeah, so this is in brief about the occlusal aspect of maxillary first molar, permanent maxillary first molar. So what we'll do is, we'll post some multiple choice questions. In fact, I've prepared 5 multiple choice questions along with an image based question. So I'll post those questions. Previously, we used to post them in the chat box. But again, for sake of more participation, we're using the community page on our YouTube channel. So we'll post those questions on the community page. Try to participate and then look into the key, right key and explanation, which is available then and there itself instantaneously once you select the option, right? So it was, I think it's helpful. And before we conclude, to summarize, permanent maxillary first molar, if you observe the occlusal anatomy, there are like 3 primary cusps, mesiopalatal and 2 buccal cusps. And secondary cusps include cusp of Carabelli and distolingual cusp. And along with that, we have this outline which forms a rough rhomboidal shape with 2 acute angles and 2 obtuse angles. As already mentioned in Wheeler's, the obtuse angles are formed by the mesiopalatal and the distobuccal, and acute angles are formed by the other sides. It's really challenging to repeat those names. And we have this primary cusp triangle formed by the primary cusps, maxillary primary cusp triangle, and then we have 2 major fossas, 2 minor fossas, and we have this central developmental groove, transverse groove, buccal developmental groove, palatal groove, so on and so forth. And when it comes to fossas, the major fossa is located, or the central fossa is located in a triangular pattern in the central, mesial to the oblique ridge, right, if you observe. And the distal fossa is also a major fossa, right, which is linear in shape, as we have already seen. And along with that, we have 2 minor fossa, mesial triangular and distal triangular fossa. And one of you has asked me, Ramna is asking about the functional cusp. As you know, palatal cusps are considered to be functional in case of upper teeth. That's the reason why the buccal cusps are reduced. If in case you want to go with cuspal reduction, we have this Bull's rule, BULL, upper buccal, lower lingual. So in case of maxillary teeth, palatal cusps are functional cusps. In case of mandibular teeth, mandibular molars, the buccal cusps are considered to be functional, right? And along with that, we've even mentioned about other supplemental grooves and stuff, which is pretty easy to understand. But remember, exercise caution when you're dealing with topics of this nature. Usually we can probably go wrong while answering MCQs in these topics, largely because of overconfidence. We take these questions for granted. We are under assumption that we know everything. But if at all there is a question like which of the following is primary and which of the following is secondary, we might stutter and stammer. And since it is a rhomboidal outlined tooth, occlusally, which sides form obtuse angles? Which sides form acute angles? I know the fact that we hate mathematics, most of us, hence we came into science, but still, when we're dealing with these topics, we should know what a parallelogram is, what a rhomboid is, and how many sides it has, and whether those sides are equal or not, and which sides form acute. Acute means less than 90, as all of you know, obtuse more than 90. So you must be able to make out all these things, right? especially when you're going in a time-bound fashion while answering these questions. Usually we might go wrong, so exercise due caution. And one of the major challenges while answering MCQs related to these so-called dental topics is because of our overconfidence, mostly because we take them for granted. What happens is, see, if it is a difficult question and if you're not able to answer, that's okay. Even if you make a mistake, that's okay. But if it is an easy question or the so-called easy question, and if you make a mistake or commit a mistake in the so-called easy question, in fact, it pulls you down very abruptly, and which should never ever happen. So if at all you make a mistake, it's okay to make a mistake when the question is tough or challenging, but it's not okay when you make a mistake in an easy question, especially when you're competing on a national level with 25,000 plus aspirants, and when the criteria of selection is percentile basis comparison, right? Okay, so let me not induce more fear. By the way, my intention is not to induce fear. All I'm saying is be mindful no matter what you're doing. And once you're mindful, mistakes can be minimized. And always remember, we cannot avoid mistakes. We cannot 100% avoid mistakes. But we can try our level best to minimize the mistakes to the best of our ability, right? So what shall we do? I think we can conclude the session, and I'll start posting questions on the community page. Is that fine? Or is there anything else I can help you with? Hi, Dr. Roy. Which place are you from, Dr. Roy? And professional surgeon. What's your name, professional surgeon? And yes, Deepika is our registered student. I know Deepika. Hi, Deepika. Ramna, which place are you from, Ramna? So we have a heart sign. I mean, the YouTube chat has been updated. We have these red hearts, smileys. That's great. Yeah. Ramna is from Himachal Pradesh. Okay, that's good. Hi, Deepika. Deepika, are you from Bangalore or Chennai? Okay. Okay, guys. So in that case, let's conclude the live session, and I'll see you again in another live session. And as I said in the beginning, we'll have more live sessions every week. We'll have more MCQs discussion in the community page. And you have any queries, you need any assistance, you can always get back. And also we're launching new courses towards upcoming NEET MDS as well as INSET. You can drop a mail at proudtobedentist@gmail.com to get all the details of our courses, including the new schedule, right? Yeah, all the best. Yeah, Deepika, you're from Delhi. It's good to know. Okay, guys, good night. See you. Bye.